So I'm working last week on a pallet jack. It's got a charger problem. I get done doing what I got to do, and I noticed the ground is missing on my extension cord, which it's technically dangerous. Something I probably wouldn't be too worried about, but you know how safety guys are. They look for stuff like that, and I was picked myself up a new plug for it. I was going to slap it on, and then I thought to myself, maybe there's people out here who subscribe to me don't necessarily know how to do something like this. I take for granted sometimes the simple stuff that I do just instinctively. And yeah, so we'll replace this plug real quick, and maybe you'll learn something. So nice thing too, I bought it's kind of an upgrade. This particular plug has a little LED in it of some sort, so when you plug it in, it actually gives you an indication that there's power. And I don't know why, but for some reason sometimes a lot of these places don't have power going to their outlets. Either the breakers are off or what have you. And yeah, this will be a nice indicator that I actually have power at the outlet. So let me get this thing unwound a little bit, and we'll get her set up here on the bench. So this is just a 50-foot 14 gauge extension cord. It's a little lightweight for commercial use, I guess you would say, but it does fine for me. I really don't put anything too heavy onto this. So we're just going to start off by cutting the bad end off. Make sure it is actually the bad end, or you have two bad ends. And then what I like to do is I usually go a little bit long when I'm stripping back the insulation here, and then I'll cut it back down to size. So just kind of come in here, and I'll just score the edge of it like that. Try not to go all the way through it, and then most of the time you can just do like that, and it just kind of breaks it. And the reason why you don't want to go all the way, that one's not breaking, there you go. The reason why you don't want to go all the way down through it is because you don't want to accidentally cut the insulation off of the wire underneath there. Pull that off, unless it's going to be a pain in the ass. This will help. Again, you want to be mindful of the insulation of the wire underneath. Here we go. Alright, so now we got our wires exposed here. Let's pull this plug apart. The thing is, you really don't even need nice tools to do these things. These are Milwaukee cutter strippers and a Klein screwdriver. You could do this with the basic Harbor Freight junk that you would find. What I like to do is, while I'm looking at it and thinking about it, I like to put this on the end of the cord, because it is very easy to forget to put this on. Then you put this on and this thing's staring at you, mocking you. Now, colors. These colors are basically just for North America, I guess we'll say. The color codes are pretty standard here. Sometimes you can get Chinese-made extension cords where they use their own color coding. In that case, you'd have to, we'll get into that later, but you'll have to go into the plug and actually ohm out the plug to find out which one's hot, which one's common, and which one's ground. Like I said, for North America, green is always ground. White, that's your common, and black is your hot. Now, as for the other standard color codes, most of your outlets and your plugs, like this one, you'll have green. Obviously, green goes to green, and where it gets a little confusing, you got silver. The way I remember it is silver always goes to white. Silver is a white metal. It goes to white. That's your common. And then you have your gold, and gold just goes to black because that's the only one that's left over that you don't know about. That also carries over to things like your wall outlets, gold, silver, and green for ground. And then your actual switches, you got your green for your ground, and then you got your 2 golds, which you always switch hot when you're switching on AC power. So what I like to do, this is a little trick, I'll stick this guy kind of close to the end here, because you don't want to have too much of this slack hanging out here, because then when you slide this back on, you'll have a bunch of wire just hanging out the end of it, and it won't be secure. So I kind of like to just kind of stick it in there, and then kind of estimate where the wire is going to end up. And if you screw up, you could always just take more off of it. So kind of right about there, and give it a snip. Now they're all the same, so now we can just go in and snip all 3, well, the last 2, and that should be fairly close to where we need to be. Now we go down to the 14 gauge mark, give yourself about 1/4 of an inch. Don't cut too much, or you actually remove some strands. And give it a little twist. And the twist is important because when you shove these into the holes, you don't want little strands hanging out there. So before we start jamming wires in there, one thing I like to do, and I only started doing this with the pallet jacks, is I get a little dielectric grease and I kind of just squirt it just a little bit down inside these holes. It gives it corrosion resistance. A lot of operators, what they like to do is when they unplug these things, just throw them on the ground. And a lot of warehouse floors are wet, and these things rot out. And this just helps it last a little longer, at least long enough for them to rip it off again. So again, we're going to start off with our green terminal down here. Ground, doesn't matter which one you start off with. It just happens to be the one I was looking at. And some of these goofy things, they don't open until you push them down, until you need kind of gravity to hold them open. So stick that guy in there. And just tighten her up. You don't need gorilla strength to tighten these up, just kind of give them a good snugging. And again, gold goes to black, which I'm on the wrong side of the terminal there. This one you can kind of see. There you go. Gold goes to black. And again, you're making sure you're not leaving any wire strings hanging out of the end here when you push them in. This one actually goes in pretty deep, so the insulation is actually up there. And last but not least, like I said, silver goes to white. I really like this Klein screwdriver. This thing does this neat little trick here where you can extend it, and it's got the 1/4 inch adapter for if you're going to put it in the gun, and it's got all your extra bits down here. This thing is handy. So yeah, just double check everything is nice and tight. There you go. And usually there is a alignment tab for these. They only go on one way. I'm looking. There's kind of a notch there, but I think that was from the screwdriver. There it goes. That tab's got to line up with, there's a little recess inside there, I think. I could be full of crap. I think I'm full of crap. There we go. Alright, so we got that pushed in there. And we're going to give that a little shove in there, and that's good. So let's tighten these down. These are pretty coarse threads, so they kind of go in pretty quick. Now this, I usually like to give this a good little shove in there, so if they do pull on it, they'll pull the cord out a little bit before it actually starts pulling on the connection. And then you just go back and forth so you get a nice even tightening. There you go. The thing you don't want to see is the actual wires coming out of that back end there. So last but not least, this isn't necessary, but if you're nervous and you want to make sure you didn't screw anything up, get yourself a cheap $5 Harbor Freight multimeter. Put it down here on continuity / diode, and that just gives you a audible indication of continuity, and you shouldn't have any continuity between any of these terminals. There we go. Now another check you could do just to make sure you got good connection, stick your terminal in one end, and you should have continuity there, and there you shouldn't. And then move over to the other terminal. Good, good, and good. And then the last terminal, which is your ground. Good, continuity, no continuity, no continuity, and good. So let me find something to plug this in. We'll see what this LED action's all about. So I looked around the house, and the only thing I could find was this extension cord that doesn't have the ground pin for it. So we're going to have to take this, and I'm kidding, of course. I got a little power strip here. All right, so let's see. We're going to make sparks today. Now, here we go. And there's a little green LED. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let's turn the lights down. There you go. Now you can see it. Cool. That'll come in useful when I'm looking for an outlet that actually had power. Again, which is something that seems to happen a lot. So there we go. That's how you replace the plug end on the end of a cord, or the plug on the end of a cord, not the plug end on the end of the cord. In case you were wondering, the female end, if I'm so bold to assume the gender of this plug, goes the same way as the male end. Yeah, so that's about it. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I often take for granted stuff like this that I know how to do, just because I had the benefit of having an old man to watch over his shoulder as he fixed things around the house, and some people might not have that privilege. So yeah, I think from now on, when I get these little daddy do projects around the house that I just do naturally, I might just start clicking the old record button and recording stuff like this, because let's be honest, more people are going to run into having to replace a plug on the end of a cord than they are going to rebuild a hydraulic cylinder or diagnose deep cycle batteries, which, I mean, both are good, but like I said, I think this would probably come in handy to more people. So yeah, I think that's about it for this video. As always, drop your comments, questions, concerns down in the comment section at the bottom there, and yeah, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. I got my microphone stand. I think the lighting's better this time. There you go. So I just got done recording the video you just watched, and I'm like, okay, that seems good enough. I'm just going to put everything away and clean things up. And I got the cord here. Now, I took the cord and I clipped it to this little handle on my bench so it wouldn't constantly be trying to fall off the bench. And I took the clip off like that. You see my problem. Just dumbass. There you go.